When it comes to opinions on subjective topics such as fictional characters, every single opinion is equal to one another. An opinion that asserts that Serena was the best character has equal value to an opinion that argues Misty was the best character. There is just no absolute standard to assess either opinion, thus both have no objective value at all. However, what makes an opinion worthwhile is how one explains their thoughts so that the listener can, at the very least, understand and appreciate said opinion. Saying that Misty was the best because nostalgia probably wouldn't convince many people, especially to those who don't have a nostalgic association with Misty. Saying that May was the best because character development doesn't tell anything if you don't explain what makes her character development good. So what I'll do in this video is explain why Serena was the best character in the Pokemon TV anime. Let's start with Serena's introduction. You can easily observe solid writing as early in the first minute of the first episode of XY. To jog your memory, that scene where Serena was sleeping in and her irritated mother commands Fletchling to wake her beloved daughter up. Fletchling pecks Serena in the face, disrupting her from dreamland. Although the basic outline of the scene is one of the most cliché ways to introduce a character, it actually does a better job than one of the more unique intros like Misty's. In fact, I should praise the scene for taking the most basic formula and building a solid introduction on top of it. In less than 2 minutes into the first episode, you can immediately get an idea of Serena's relationship with her family members. When Fletchling pecks Serena in the face, she screams so loud that everyone hears her. When the scene cuts to Grace, the way she smiles indicates that this happens all the time. This is reinforced when Serena complains to Fletchling that she already told it to stop waking her up like that. She glares daggers at Fletchling and then pounces on it, crashing onto her floor table only to serve as a perch for Fletchling. This shows us that Serena is close enough with Fletchling that she can be physically rough with it. Looking at how carefree Fletchling is, Serena's roughness is certainly not malicious. When Grace calls Serena for morning practice, you can see Serena's annoyed expression. This short moment shows us an angle of her relationship with her mother. We can tell that Grace makes Serena do some sort of training, and that Serena finds said training to be a pain. However, it's easy to tell that there is no malice between the two. If Serena found the training to be unbearable, or Grace was forcing Serena to practice against her will, then we wouldn't see an annoyed face, but a face of despair. I'm only mentioning this because some people think Grace is an evil mother or something. She's not. Then, contrasting with her previous attitude, Serena greets Rhyhorn with a refreshing good morning. This shows us that Serena can certainly be sweet to those around her, as long as if they don't annoy her like Fletchling or her mother did. Serena's lifestyle is further explored in the beginning of episode 2, where she's shown to be incapable of riding Rhyhorn properly. When she royally fails, she announces her distaste in the sport for the whole world to hear. This scene's purpose is to show us how Serena doesn't enjoy her current lifestyle. It makes sense considering how much it'll hurt scraping against the dry dirt like that. I think this is a good time to throw in the other girls' introductions. I do give Misty's quirky introduction credit where it's due, but it has a critical flaw. Remember when Misty confronted Team Rocket by flaunting her sassy attitude and super special cringe-festly fail by sending out Goldeen, only to let it flop on the floor like a miserable Magikarp? And yet she's the one that's mentoring Ash when it comes to Pokemon? I call inconsistent and contradictory writing there. The problem with May's introduction, other than how it's lazy and inelegant for her to narrate while breaking the fourth wall, is how one of her essential characteristics is contradicted. The one I'm talking about is how she explicitly stated that she doesn't like Pokemon. Without going into too much detail, in the second episode, she explicitly states that she wants it in a Zuro because it's cute, contradicting with the idea that she dislikes Pokemon. So, the people who say May had great character development because she initially disliked Pokemon, but ends up liking them, are kinda wrong. Dawn's introduction was strong and would have been amazing if you don't look at the bigger picture. The first episode of Diamond and Pearl mostly featured Dawn and spent only the last 3 minutes for Ash. This wouldn't have been a problem if Dawn was truly given as much importance as Ash has received. Although a viewer who has seen previous seasons will be able to tell that Ash is still the bigger star of the show, a newcomer will get the impression that Dawn's the bigger star, which proved not to be the case because the story's biggest climax was the Sinnoh League, not the contests. Iris's introduction was alright. It establishes both her character and relationship with Ash while still making it clear that the story is primarily about him. And actually, I really don't have anything bad to say about it because it doesn't seem to have any noticeable flaws. It just isn't as strong as Serena's introduction because Iris's introduction isn't as dense as Serena's. Which brings me to my next point. As a reminder, by the beginning of episode 2, it's made clear that Serena doesn't enjoy her lifestyle. She wakes up only to be irritated by her mom and bird, thrown around by the family rhino, and this.
Have a look at this. Something unbelievable is happening.
Oh yeah? Well, something unbelievable has happened to my face, okay?
Ah!
I don't know why, but I love her for that. Wait, I'm getting off topic. This is the point where Serena sees Ash again in a billion years, and we get to see how she breaks out of her unenjoyable daily life. Watching Ash display heroics revives Serena's childhood memories of him. While some people look down on Serena's crush towards Ash, it actually shows us another side of her character. Before we get to see Serena's capacity to love, it's possible to get the impression that Serena's a lazy good-for-nothing that gives up easily. But this potential notion is destroyed by showing how Serena's willing to go so far as to leave her home, pick up her first Pokémon, and start her Pokémon journey just to meet some boy. One might argue that Serena's leaving home to see a boy that she barely knows is impulsive and stupid. And they're right. But the thing is, that's the point. One of the many reasons why the writing behind Serena is so beautiful is how it creates a story of a girl coming of age. So in the beginning, she's a naive girl that's prone to impulsive decisions, such as her leaving home to meet a boy she doesn't know very well. This idea is even visually supported by how the illustrators/animators paid attention to detail. There are a couple of moments in the earlier episodes of XY where Serena has an unattractively drawn face, especially when she blushes. This creates the image of a girl in love who can't wipe off the silly smile off her face. If you paid attention to your peers back in school, especially during high school, it's not uncommon to see them smiling like an idiot when they're with the person they like. But there are also some moments in the earlier episodes where Serena's blushing is very attractive, which is to show how a young girl in love can be a beautiful thing to see. When Serena walks down some stairs while she heads off to meet Ash, the way her arms are spread out shows us how excited she is. While I don't know any science to back this up, I interpret this scene as Serena being so consumed in her thoughts about reuniting with Ash that her balance was compromised, so she subconsciously lifted her arms to keep her balance. During the first half of XY, Serena travels with the crew without much thought for her future. Back at home, she would be practicing for Rhyhorn races, which she didn't fully appreciate until she met Ash, meaning that she just put up with the pain and the rear-end duties to fulfill at home, leaving her no time to explore what she wants to do. When she joins the crew, obviously she's having a blast. She's traveling with the love of her life after all. Considering how it was established as early in the third episode that she's so impulsive that she set off on a journey to meet someone who's practically a stranger, it only makes sense that she's just passing the time not doing much other than having fun with her friends. When the crew participates in Professor Sycamore's summer camp and meets the XY rivals, we bear witness to Serena's realization that she doesn't have a dream. This is the point where Serena's character begins to mature, which we'll be exploring in detail in part 2. What? There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Serena.